Shalom. My name is Adam, and I welcome you to the parable of the Vineyard. Every day, Yahweh is waking up a remnant, a group of people who are coming out of deceptions, realizing our walk is to consist of faith and obedience to His righteous commands. Each week, we read through and examine a portion of the Torah, allowing the Spirit of the Most High to guide, teach, and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters out of His law. Join us as we seek to be refined by His Word, preparing ourselves for the return of our King of Kings, being faithful and obedient, walking in His way, truth, and life. Shabbat Shalom and welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Parable of the Vineyard YouTube live stream Torah portion reading. My name is Adam, your host, and I welcome you. This is week 47, looking at Deuteronomy 11:26 through 16:17. Where has the time gone? We're almost halfway through the last book in our cycle, in the yearly cycle. So, man, time is flying. Is it Sukkot yet? Any case, let's start with prayer. Heavenly Father, Yahweh, we come before you and bless you in Yahushua's name. We thank you for giving us eyes and ears to see and hear in these last days, Father, to see your truth, to wake up a generation coming back to your ancient path, Father. We thank you for all this was not be possible through the redemption plan that you had through your Son, your Word, Messiah Yahushua, and His offering for us, and the giving of the Ruach HaKodesh to your people, that we might be guided in the way, Father, to keep your commandments with all that we have. We pray that you continue to open our eyes to the wondrous things written in your Torah, that we may be hearers and doers of your word, Father. Strengthen each and every one of us, Father, individually and corporately. We love you and bless you and say Shabbat Shalom. Amen. Let's raise some hands. Hallelujah! So, Re'eh, we're on Torah portion Re'eh, week 47, which is to see or to behold. In this portion, we get the blessings or the curses for following or disobeying the Torah. Moshe instructs the people about the centralized location, which is unnamed for the time being. We know, of course, now Jerusalem, but we'll talk about our day now, where we're at. A warning for false prophets and teachers. A short discussion on clean and unclean animals, tithes, and the year of release. So a lot to talk about, so no messing around here for me. But first, a little shofar. Maybe. Somehow. All right, here we are at chapter 11 of Deuteronomy. We're going to read from 26 to 16, verse 17. So we got a lot to read, a lot to discuss, a lot of notes here. So I'm not going to mess around tonight. So before we do, though, I need to make sure, just in case you're new here, if you're just stumbling across this, my name is Adam. I consider myself a student of the Torah, not a teacher of the Torah, and that's not to remove responsibility for what comes out of my mouth. We're all responsible for what we say. But it's just to let you know that I think a lot of us are very new to the Torah, and I think each year as we continue to do this, we glean more and more, and our walk gets refined more and more. And just like a plant or a tree continues to grow, we're going to continue to grow. So maybe some of the stuff I talked about in the Torah portion 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, or last year is different than what we're going to talk about here. This study would be the equivalent of being in my living room, and we're going to read the Torah portion, and we're going to talk about it. Unfortunately, at this time, it's a one-way conversation, but I look forward to studying it out with you, in the kingdom. Or if you live in the Southwest Missouri area and want to come fellowship with us on Shabbat, send me an email, hello@parableofthevineyard.com. Check the spelling. It's V-I-N-E, Vineyard. V-I-N-E, not V-I-N-Y-I-R-D. Okay, enough of that. Let's go. Deuteronomy 11:26. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. we choose which one, right? Blessing or curse. We have the option to do good or the option to do evil. We have an option to have a blessing or a curse. A blessing if you obey the commandments of Yahweh Elohim, which I command you this day, and a curse if you will not obey the commandments of Yahweh Elohim, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day to go after other Elohim which you have not known. And to follow other gods doesn't mean you're necessarily bowing down to a statue of Buddha. It could be trying to serve Yahweh in ways he didn't command. That's going off after other Elohim, right? So we have the choice of life or good, death or evil, or life or death, good or evil. Sorry. It's interesting how he created us, that we have free will. And I think that's amazing. Part of our creator is that he created us willing to choose. Because if he wanted to, because he created the bee, and the bee has no choice but to do what the bee does. An ant has really no choice but to do what an ant does. A spider just does what a spider does. They're not like robotic, but they're pre-programmed in their mind what to do. Well, if he wanted to, he could have pre-programmed us to just follow his commandments. That's it. We could have been kind of like robots. We could have just been like, we keep the commandments, and that's it. But life and death, right? It's much deeper than that. It's pretty deep when you think about him giving us the option to do so. And, if he wants true lovers of him to be in his, into his kingdom, if this is the whole plan, is to get back into the kingdom and to have a kingdom full of people, it wasn't just to have Adam and Eve and that's it. He wanted a kingdom full of people, of righteous people. And he gave us that choice, and that makes it so sweet. That's what makes life bittersweet. You can make it bitter or you can make it sweet. The end of your life can be bitter or sweet, right? Whatever you choose. But it's poetic in that he allows us that choice to choose him or not choose him. And you don't choose him, you have your expected end. Atheists. Right? You live, you die, and you're buried, and that's it. There's no existence of you. Well, for them, they're right. But for his people, those of us that have come to love his ways and to love him and to keep his ways, well, I think it's going to be pretty amazing that his kingdom is filled with those kind of people. Anyways, so we have the choice, right? He also gave the angels choice. There's an interesting scripture here in 1 Adam and Eve chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 4. And the Adonai said to Adam and Eve, "You transgressed of your own free will until you came out of the garden in which I had placed you. Of your own free will have you transgressed through your desire for divinity, greatness, and an exalted state, such as I have, so that I deprived you of the bright nature in which you then were. And I made you come out of the garden to this land, rough and full of trouble. If only you had not transgressed my commandment and had kept my law, my Torah, and had not eaten of the fruit of the tree near which I told you not to come. And there were fruit trees in the garden that were better than that one. But the wicked Satan, who continued not in his first estate, nor kept his faith, in whom it was no good intent towards me, and who, though I had created him, yet set me at naught, and sought the Godhead, so that I hurled him down from heaven. He it is who made the tree appear pleasant in your eyes, until you ate of it by hearkening to him. Thus have you transgressed my commandment, and therefore have I brought upon you all these sorrows. For I am Elohim the Creator, who, when I create my creatures, did not intend to destroy them, but after they had sorely roused my anger, I punish them with grievous plagues until they repent. But if on the contrary they still continue hardened in their transgression, they shall be under a curse forever." So, very much, just like Satan had a choice, he was one of his angels that he had created. He had a choice, and he decided to transgress. Adam had a choice, and he decided to transgress. Right? Satan's punishment was far more grievous because Satan was privy to, I guess, apparently much more and whatnot, but he was not given a chance of eternal life. But Adam and his progeny was. And it shall come to pass when Yahweh Lahaika has brought you in unto the land whither you go to possess it, that you shall put the blessings upon Mount Gerizim and upon the curse upon Mount Ebal. Are they not on the other side of the Yarden, by the way where the sun goes down, in the land of Canaanim, which dwell in the plain over against Gilgal, beside the plains of Moreh. For ye shall pass over the Jordan to go into possess the land which Yahweh Elohim gives you, and you shall possess it and dwell therein. And you shall guard to do all the commandments and the judgments which I set before you this day. Actually, here's Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. It's actually still there today. Still there. The altar, this is what it kind of looks like. Mount Gerizim, Mount Ebal. It's like a natural amphitheater where the voice would carry. It's pretty cool. Right, but Joshua's altar is still up there that he made right here. This is still part of that altar that he made up there. Pretty cool stuff. Chapter 12. Actually, let's see. What's it say? And you shall guard to do all these commandments and judgments which I set before you this day. Now, it's interesting that we also are striving to keep... so first here it says, and it's talking about going to possess the land and then keeping the commandments. Well, we're not in the land right now. We're in dispersion. But there's a couple of prophecies about keeping the commands, the Torah, in dispersion. 2 Ezra 13:39 through 47. And as for you, seeing him gather to himself another multitude that was peaceable, these are the 10 tribes which were led away from their own land into captivity in the days of King Hoshea. This is the northern kingdom of Israel that was led captivity, whom Shalmaneser, the king of the Assyrians, led captive. He took them across the river, and they were taken into another land. But they formed this plan for themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the nations and go to a more distant region where mankind had never lived, that there at least they might keep their statutes, which they had not kept in their own land. So here's a prophecy about Israel keeping the Torah in a distant land, not of their own. And they went in by the narrow passages of the Euphrates River, for at that time the Most High performed signs for them and stopped the channels of the river until they had passed over. Through that region there was a long way to go, a journey of a year and a half, and that country is called Arzareth, which some people think is America, maybe. Then they dwelt there until the last times, maybe it is, and now when they are about to come again, the Most High will stop the channels of river again, so that they may be able to pass over. Therefore you saw the multitude gathered together in peace. What if we actually did have a physical exodus and we got to walk, or maybe he'll let us drive our cars. I don't know, probably not. But he split the oceans. Because it says the Exodus is going to be bigger than, and everybody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to talk about the old Exodus anymore. It's going to be such a big event that everybody talks about it. I don't know. I'm excited. All I know is I want to be a part of that. Another passage I want to read for you is from the Targums. It's from the Targums of Zechariah, chapter 10, verse 9. And as I scattered them among the nations, and they were remembering my fear in a distant land, so shall they prolong the years of their life with their children and shall return. That was, again, Zechariah 10:9, the Aramaic Targums. Another prophecy about keeping the Torah in the last day, or in the dispersion, is the book of Tobit. It's in chapters 1 through 2. Basically, Tobit is a righteous man from Naphtali, and even though all the nation of Israel went astray, Naphtali and a few others were keeping Torah in a distant land. He was keeping the feast of Shavuot in Nineveh. So check that out if you want to see it for yourself. So Deuteronomy 12. These are the commandments and judgments which ye shall guard to do in the land which Yahweh Elohai of your fathers gives you to possess it all the days that you live upon the earth. You shall utterly destroy all the places where the nations which ye shall possess serve their Elohim upon the high mountains, upon the hills, and under every green tree. And ye shall overthrow their altars, and break their pillars, and burn their Asherah poles with fire. And ye shall hew down graven images of their Elohim, and destroy their names of them out of that place. Right? So they're tearing down idolatry and images. We should do so in a spiritual nature in our lives. What's idolatry? What are the idols in our heart? We should be totally smashing those and demolishing them. In the book of Ezekiel chapter 14, it talks about how the elders of Israel had placed their idols in their heart. And I think the idolatry in the heart is the bigger offender in today's world. There's still tons of people serving, wood and stone and gold and silver, but I'm talking about, at least the believers in the God of Israel, the Elohim of Israel, right? Deuteronomy 12:4, you shall not do so unto Yahweh Elohim, but unto the place which Yahweh Elohim shall choose out of all your tribes to put his name there, even unto his habitation shall you seek, and there you shall come. And there you shall bring your burnt offerings, and your sacrifices, and your tithes, and your heave offerings of your hand, and of your vows, and of your freewill offerings, and of the firstlings of your herd, and of your flocks. And there you shall eat before Yahweh Elohim, and ye shall rejoice in all that you put your hand unto, you and your households, wherein Yahweh Elohim has blessed you. You shall not do after all the things that we do here this day, every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes. For you are not as yet come to that rest and to the inheritance which Yahweh Elohim gives you. And neither have we entered that full rest. And a lot of people get Hebrews 4 wrong, which says we've entered in his rest, but then it says we should strive to enter into that rest, right? Lest we fall, as the example of those that fell in the wilderness, right? So, any case, let me back up for a second. So, a lot of people will take these commandments here in Deuteronomy and be like, well, see, we can't keep the feast days anywhere else other than Jerusalem. Well, that certainly was for when they went into the land. It's interesting. If you look at, if you want to test that, so here we are in Deuteronomy before they cross, before Moses dies and before, Joshua takes over. So this command was given to only, bring your tithes and your offerings and your sacrifices to Jerusalem only. But as soon as Moses died and Joshua took over and they crossed over and they were in the plains of Jericho, they kept the Passover not in Jerusalem, right? So either Joshua completely just disobeyed what Moses knew, or he knew that commandment was for when they were in the land. So we're not in the land now, and just like Tobit kept the Feast of Shavuot in Nineveh, well, we should keep the feast days wherever we're at in our dispersions. Because think about it, while the temple was in Jerusalem, was going to be erected in Jerusalem, or even before the temple was erected, they had the tent of tabernacle, which is where the presence of Yah was. Well, where's it at now? 1 Corinthians 3:16, know you not that you are the temple of Elohim, and that the Spirit of Elohim dwells in you? 2 Corinthians 6:16, and what agreement has the temple of Elohim with idols? For you are the temple of the living Elohim, as Elohim said, I will dwell with them and walk with them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. So if we are the tabernacle of Elohim and he's walking amongst us, well, it says to only go to the place where his name is placed. Well, where is his name placed, right? John 14:23, Yahusha answered and said to him, if a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him, and we will make our abode with him. We're going to live with him. Matthew 18:20, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them, wherever we're at in our dispersions, right? And we only go to the place where his name is set. Well, where is his name set? Revelation 14:1, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, with him 144,000, having his Father's name written on their foreheads. Those of us that are walking in his truth and have the Ruach HaKodesh in us, the Spirit of the Father in us, right? This is where his name resides. So, therefore, I don't believe the command of only being able to do it in Jerusalem stands true for us because we're in our dispersions. We're not in the land of our inheritance, right? And we're going to see here actually multiple times in this Torah portion that here in Deuteronomy 12:7, it says, there you shall eat before Yahweh Elohim, and you shall rejoice. Like, this is a commandment. You shall rejoice, right? We've talked about this before, like, oh, the burdensome Torah. No, it's awesome. Is it Feast of Trumpets yet? Is it Sukkot yet? Because I'm ready to rejoice. Day of Atonement's a little different. It's a somber day. But these days, rejoice. It's a command. Have fun. I can imagine, like, if Yahusha was around us, like, hey, what are y'all doing? Smile, have fun. It's Yah's feast day. I can just, I don't know, just silly thought maybe. Any case, so, all right, where was I at? Verse 10, Deuteronomy 12:10. And speaking of which, actually, yeah. But when you go over the Yarden and dwell in the land which Yahweh Elohim gives you to inherit, and when he gives you rest from all your enemies round about, so that you dwell in safety, then there shall be a place which Yahweh Elohim shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. And that's where we're talking about the name in their foreheads. Thither shall you bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, and your sacrifices, your tithes, and your heat offerings of your hand, and all your choice vows which you vow unto Yahweh. And ye shall rejoice before Yahweh Elohim, you and your sons and your daughters and your men servants, your employees, right? And your maid servants, employees, and the Levite that's within your gates, for as much as he has no part or inheritance with you. Guard yourself, that you offer not your burnt offerings in every place that you see, but in the place which Yahweh shall choose in one of your tribes. There you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there shall you do all that I command you. But we know from all the stuff we just read that we are now, I think, really, it's really more so true that we together are the tabernacle. I think we're all just pieces of the puzzle, or building blocks of the greater building. I don't think each of us are individual little buildings. I think we are fit together as the building, and where we're gathered is where His presence is, where His name is. So I believe that we can gather wherever we're at to do this. Just like Peter says, as far as building blocks, 1 Peter 2:5, you also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim by Yahusha HaMashiach. Verse 15, notwithstanding, you may kill and eat flesh in all your gates. Whatsoever your soul lusts after, according to the blessing of Yahweh Elohim, which He has given you, the unclean and the clean may eat thereof. Not unclean, not that you can eat clean or unclean, or unclean or clean. It's talking about clean or unclean people, as of the roebuck and as of the deer. And so there's a lot of people preaching vegetarianism or veganism. Those of you that have been with me for a while, you know that I was a vegetarian for quite some time, not because the Torah teaches it, because it's something I felt called to do for a little while. And as of late, I'm not one anymore. I don't eat meat very, very often. But point being is, it's not about what I'm doing. I'm just, again, we're in my living room, so I'm just talking to you. For people to preach vegetarianism is anti-Torah. Now, I think we should certainly be selective. I don't think we should be riotous eaters of meat, which is what the book of Proverbs talks about. I don't think we should be surfeiting, which Messiah talks about in Matthew 24, which, if you look up the definition, it's a gluttonous eater. I don't think we should just. I don't necessarily know that we have to eat meat at every single meal. We saw that the Israelites lusted after meat in the wilderness, and it was not a good thing. But certainly He's blessed us to allow us to eat meat when we choose to do so. I think we have to use the Ruach HaKodesh to be chaste in our eating of flesh, and where we get that flesh from, because we don't want to know. We want to know who handled that meat. I'm gonna, as I said earlier in earlier study, I don't think it's all that crazy to say I think we should know where our meat's coming from, because we know that they tamper with food. We know that they do anything they can to get us to trip up and to poison our bodies, and any way that they can go against Yah and His way and His order, they do it. So if we know that they're tampering with wheat and making fake wheat and GMO this, what makes us think that they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing with the meat the right way? So I don't know that this is the right time to be buying meat from Tyson and Market Side from Wally Mart and even these other major producers. I think this might be a good time to be very selective of where you get this meat from, to know how it's being handled. Point being, I didn't mean to go on this tangent. Point being, anti-meat doctrine is anti-Torah. Only you shall not eat the blood, you shall pour it upon the earth as with water. And, some people will even preach that you can't have a steak, because, when you cook it, some red stuff comes out. Do your research on the difference between hemoglobin and myoglobin. It may be beneficial to you. You may not eat within your gates of the tithe of your grain, or of your wine, or of your oil, or of the firstlings of your herds of your flock, nor any of your vows which you vow, nor your freewill offerings, or heave offering of your hand. But you must eat them before Yahweh Elohim in the place which Yahweh Elohim shall choose, you and your son and your daughter and your manservant and your maidservant and the Levite that is within your gates, and you shall rejoice. There it is again. You shall, thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt rejoice before Yahweh Elohim and all that you put your hands unto. Guard yourself that you forsake not the Levite as long as you live upon the earth. When Yahweh Elohim shall enlarge your border as He has promised you, and you shall say, I will eat flesh, because your soul longs to eat flesh, you may eat flesh. Whatsoever your soul lusts after, If the place which Yahweh Elohika has chosen to put his name there be too far from you, then you shall kill of your herd and of your flock which Yahweh has given you, as I have commanded you, and you shall eat in your gates whatsoever your soul lusts after. Even as the roebuck and the deer is eaten, so you shall eat them. The unclean and the clean shall eat of them, right? Not eating clean or unclean food, but the clean or unclean people shall eat of them alike. So just because you're unclean doesn't mean you can't have a meal. Only be sure that you eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and you may not eat the life with the flesh. You shall not eat it. You shall pour it upon the earth as water. You shall not eat it, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, when you shall do that which is right in the sight of Yahweh. Only your holy things which you have, and your vows shall you take, and go unto the place which Yahweh shall choose. And you shall offer your burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood, upon the altar of Yahweh Elohika. And the blood of your sacrifices shall be poured out upon the altar of Yahweh Elohika, and you shall eat the flesh. Guard and hear all these words which I command you, that it may go well with you, and with your children after you forever, when you do that which is good and right in the sight of Yahweh Elohika. And when Yahweh Elohika shall cut off the nations from before you, whither you go to possess them, and you succeed them, and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself, that you be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before you, and that you inquire not after their Elohim, saying, how did these nations serve their Elohim? Like this. How did these nations serve their Elohim? Even so will I do likewise. And what does that look like in modern day? How do other people serve the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and his son? Christmas and Easter and all this other garbage. Toss it out. You shall not do so unto Yahweh Elohika. Don't celebrate him in that way. For every abomination to Yahweh which he hates have they done unto their Elohim. For even, this is their extreme, for even their sons and their daughters have they burnt in the fire to their Elohim. What things soever I command you, guard to do it. You shall not add thereto, nor diminish from it. All right, now we're on to food, chapter 13. If there are, that's not food. Chapter 14 is food. Sorry, this is the Deuteronomy 13 tests: false or true or false prophet. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder come to pass, whereof he spoke unto you, saying, let us go after other Elohim, which you have not known, and let us serve them. Right? So this is even like, hey, a prophet showing a sign that came to pass, and it's like, hey, let's serve God. Even if they're like, let's serve Elohim a different way other than what the Torah says. You shall not hearken unto the words of that prophet or the dreamer of dreams, for Yahweh Elohim proves you to know whether you love Yahweh Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul. He's going to test you. There's a story in 1 Kings 13 where there was a prophet sent to prophesy, and he did his job. But one of the things that was told to him was, hey, when you go into this land, don't eat anything of their food and don't drink any of their water or drinks. And so he goes and prophesies, does what he's supposed to. He's on his way out, and this other prophet's like, he heard that this prophet did a mighty thing and that he was told not to eat or drink. And so it doesn't really say, but perhaps even Yah was like, maybe this guy was a prophet, and like, hey, go test my other prophet by saying that, go tell him, Yah, I'm a prophet too. Yah spoke to me and said, don't, sit down, eat and drink. And so when that prophet went to the other prophet, was like, hey, come on, Yah, I'm a prophet too. Sit down and eat and drink with me. Yah said it's okay. The prophet's like, oh, okay. And so he sat down, he ate and drank. He rose up, and a lion killed him. Point being is, Yah's told us what to do. And if someone comes to test us, be like, hey, did Elohim really say not to do that? Right? You don't have to do that. It's the same thing. He's testing you. He tested that prophet, and he's going to test us. You shall walk after Yahweh Elohim, and fear him, and guard his commandments, and obey his voice, and you shall serve him, and cleave unto him. And that prophet or dreamer of dreams shall be put to death. Now, there's people today that proclaim to be prophets. I think Yah is speaking to people through dreams, visions. Maybe he's even sending angels to people and saying, thus says Yahweh. I don't know. I don't claim to be a prophet. It's interesting how many times the Torah portions relate to our lives. And for me, it's happened more often than I can count. Not every time. Sometimes you read a Torah portion like that doesn't relate to anything in my life right now. But a lot of times it does, and it just so happens that just a few days ago, maybe like three days ago, I had someone claiming to be a prophet and wrote me an email that took me maybe 30, 45 minutes to read, claiming that he was a prophet and that he was prophesying over me. And it was basically, well, I'll keep the context of my letter, but the long story short is I now have an opportunity to test that man as either a prophet. He'll either be a true prophet or he'll be a false prophet. And that's what we have to do, right? If someone rises themselves up as a prophet, we're to test them. We're to test them on their words versus what the word actually says, their actions, what the word actually says, and if they've prophesied something to come to pass, right? And that prophet or dreamer of dreams shall be put to death because he has spoken to turn you away from Yahweh Lahaikim, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust you out of the way which Yahweh Lahaikim commanded you to walk in. So shall you put away the evil from the midst of you. So, why aren't we killing people right now? Well, first of all, that's for being in the land. We're not in the land. And just like this, likewise, you didn't see Daniel in Babylon. I mean, they're all like witchcrafters, sorcerers, and idolaters, and Daniel didn't go around stoning everybody because he knew he wasn't in his land. We're not in our land right now. If we were living in Yah's land and Torah was ruling the land, yeah, root out the evil out of that land real quickly. You'll see how many people raise themselves up as prophets. Luke 9:54 through 56. And when his disciples, James and John, saw this, they said, Adonai, will you that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elijah did? And this is when the captains or the group of 50s came up to Elijah and like, are you Elijah? Blah, blah, All right, and Elijah called down fire and burned them up. And then the second group came and he burned them up. And the third group was like, hey, please don't burn me up. And Elijah's like, I'll go with you. Anyways, but he turned and rebuked them and said, you know not what manner of spirit you are of, for the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went to another village. So not only are we not in the land, but even Messiah, we're not here to kill people. We're not here to stone people. If someone's a witch, preach the good news to them. Don't stone them. Now, if we're living in Yah's land and Torah is ruled there and there's a witch there, well, then you know what to do. May sound brutal, but I don't know. Because even in Yahusha's time, they were living in the land, but they were in subjection to the Roman army. They were under Roman law at that point. Okay. If your brother or the son of your mother or your son or your daughter or the woman of your bosom or your friend, which is as your own soul, entice you secretly, saying, let us go and serve other Elohim, or even let's serve Elohim this way, right? Which you have not known, you nor your fathers, namely of the Elohim of the people which are round about you, right? Let's just let's do it this way. Which are round about you, nigh unto you, or far off from you, from the one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. You shall not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shall your eye pity him, neither shall you spare, neither shall you conceal him, but you shall surely kill him. Your hand shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people. And you shall stone him with stones, that he die, because he has sought to thrust you away from Yahweh Lahaika, which brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the house of bondage. This may seem, very extreme and brutal, but, Yah is the gardener, and we're the plants, and, this where earth is the field, of course. So anyone that's ever done any gardening, and I'm very novice and amateurish, but that if you have let's just take a rose bush, for example, and if one of the branch is poisoned and full of disease, you don't just be like, I'll just leave you there. You cut it off, because guess what? It starts poisoning the rest of the plant. So what he's doing here it says, what does it say? So shall you put the evil away from the midst of you. So it's basically like cutting off the evil at its roots. So like cutting off weeds at their roots and other things that rob the plant of nutrition. And here's the whole point also. And all Yashrael shall hear and fear and shall do no more any such wickedness as this among you. And even taking the one we'll read probably next Torah portion, or maybe it's 2 from now, but where it talks about stoning your children, right? It talks about a child that's stubborn, that won't hearken to their parents, is lazy, it won't work, is a glutton and a drunkard. And it says after you've tried to chasten him and he still doesn't hearken, then you take him and you bring him out and you stone him. That again may sound like super extreme, like, oh no, first of all, this is obviously a child that's completely just terrible and disobedient. If that child grows up and has children, that plant will continue to reproduce evil and evil and evil. It's just like when a weed, just grows out of control, it ends up taking over the whole garden bed. And we have to realize also it's for people who see it shall hear and fear. So think about this. If you were a child growing up in a Torah obedient community, and the Torah was the law of the land, and you saw like an older child being stoned because they were disobedient to their parents, they were gluttonous, they were drunkards, they refused to be corrected, what is that going to do to you? Are you going to be like, yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll probably get away with it, though. They won't stone me. No, they're going to probably be like, I don't want to do that. I guess I'm going to listen to my mom and dad, and I'm going to do what they say, and I'm not going to be a gluttonous or a drunkard. It's chastening. If you shall hear say in one of your cities, which Yahweh Elohika has given you to dwell there, saying, certain men, the children of Belial, are gone out from among you, and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go and serve other Elohim, which you have not known. Then shall you inquire, and make search, and ask diligently, and behold, if it be truth, and the thing certain, that such an abomination is wrought among you, you shall surely smite the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle thereof with the edge of the sword. And that's what, the whole command of them to go in the land of Israel, the land of Canaan, and destroy everything, is, again, Yah's the gardener, Yah's people are the plants, and the foreign nations that weren't supposed to be there in the first place, they were the weeds. If you don't get the weeds out of the garden bed before you plant, it's over before you even start. And that's what he said. If you don't root them all out, there are going to be thorns in your side. They're going to be fruitless plants robbing you. And you shall gather all the spoil of it into the midst of the street thereof, and shall burn with fire the city, and all the spoil of it to every whit. For Yahweh Elohika, and it shall be a heap forever, and it shall not be built again. And there shall cleave not of the cursed thing to your hand, that Yahweh may turn from the fierceness of his anger, and show you mercy, and have compassion on you, and multiply you, as he has sworn unto your fathers, when you shall hearken to the voice of Yahweh Elohika, to guard all his commandments, which I command you this day, to do that which is right in the eyes of Yahweh Elohika. All right, now chapter 14, clean and unclean food. In this Torah portion, there's not a whole lot to compare in the Targums. There is one interesting portion here in 14, and also one in 16. Outside of that, we're just going to stick with the Sefer today. Chapter 14. You are the children of Yahweh Elohim. You shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead, which is your forehead, like a forehead baldness. Not going to make. These are rituals. These are rituals that foreign nations did to serve their Elohim, and we're going to show you a little piece of that. 1 Kings 18:20 through 40. This is Elijah's triumph over the priests of Baal. Great scene. I'm going to read a lot more than I really need to show you my point, but it's such a good story that why not? Let's just read 20 verses or so. So Ahab sent to all the people of Israel and gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. And Elijah came near to all the people and said, how long will you go limping between two different opinions? If Yahweh is Elohim, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people did not answer him a word. Why? Because they were guilty, because they knew they had their hands in trying to serve Yah and serving Baal. They had to try to have it both ways. Same thing in Jeremiah's day. All right? You can stand here in my house and say we are delivered to do all these abominations. Yeah, right. Then Elijah said to the people, even I only am left of the prophets of Yahweh, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let 2 bulls be given us, and let them choose one bull for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. And I will prepare the other bull, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire to it. And you call on the name of your Elohim, and I will call on the name of Yahweh. And the Elohim who answers by fire, he is Elohim. And all the people answered, it is well spoken. They're like, show us. Then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose for yourselves one bull and prepare it first, for you are many, and call on the name of your Elohim, but put no fire to it. And they took the bull which was given to them, and they prepared it, and called on the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, "Oh, Baal, answer us." But there was no voice, and no one answered. And they limped about the altar which they had made. And at noon Elijah mocked them, saying, "Cry aloud, for he is an Elohim," right? Either he is musing, or he has gone aside, or I think another translation, he's going to the bathroom, or he's on a journey, or perhaps he's asleep and he must be wakened up. Wakened up. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their customs with swords and lances until the blood gushed out upon them. This is where it comes from. You shall not cut yourselves. This is part of their witchcraft and their serving false god, idolatry garbage. So they cut themselves after their custom with swords and lances until the blood gushed out upon them, and at midday past they raved on until the time of the offering of the oblation. But there was no voice, and no one answered, and no one heeded. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come near to me." He's like, "Come here, come here." All the people came near to him, and he repaired the altar of Yahweh that had been thrown down. Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of Yahweh came, saying, "Israel shall be your name." And with the stones he built an altar in the name of Yahweh. He made a trench about the altar as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order and cut the bull in pieces and laid it on the wood. And he said, "Fill 4 jars with water and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood," which at that time would have been ridiculous, because like you can't have a fire with everything being wet. I mean, that's not that time, that's any time, right? And he said, "You're try to go light a fire with, the wood and everything all soaking wet." And he said, "Do it a second time." They did it a second time. And he said, "Do it a third time." And they did it a third time, and the water ran about the altar and filled the trench also with water. So at this point, people are like, "What are you doing?" And at that time, the offering of the oblation, Elijah the prophet came near and said, "O Yahweh, Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yasharel, let it be known this day that you are Elohim in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Answer me, O Yahweh, answer me, that this people may know that you, O Yahweh, art Elohim, and that you have turned their hearts back." Then the fire of Yahweh fell, whoosh, and consumed the burnt offering and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, "Yahweh, he is Elohim. Yahweh, he is Elohim." What a moment that must have been. And Elijah said to them, "Seize the prophets of Baal, and let not one of them escape." And they seized them. And Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon and killed them there. Woo! Anyway, so a long story about where cutting yourselves comes from, but hey, it's a good story. "Why? For you are a holy people unto Yahweh Lahaika, and Yahweh has chosen you to be a peculiar people," right? "Peoples unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth." Deuteronomy 26:18, Jubilees 2:22, 1 Peter 2:9, Titus 2:14. A peculiar people above all the nations that are upon the earth. And this is anti-world doctrine, because the world is like, no, we're all one, and we're all the same. Well, Yahweh says something different. Above. That's not in a boastful manner. This is just his word. His word says that if we keep his ways, that he will set us above the nations. Right now we're still in dispersion, but one day that's going to happen again. "You shall not eat any abominable thing. These are the beasts which you shall eat: the ox," right, the cow, "the sheep, the goat, the deer, the roebuck, and the fallow deer, and the wild goat, and the pygarg, and the wild ox, and the chamoy. I can't remember how this is spelled. Chamois. And every beast that parts the hoof and cleaves the cleft into 2 claws, and chews the cud among the beasts that you shall eat." So, like, how like a horse hoof, it's all smooth, right? But like a cow, right? I don't know if you can see it, but like a cow, gets split, right? Just like a pig, it's got a split hoof, but it does not chew the cud. Well, we'll hear it. The scriptures will speak for itself. "Nevertheless, these you shall not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the cloven hoof, as the camel, and the hare, and the coney, for they chew the cud, but divide not the hoof. Therefore they are unclean unto you. And the swine, because it divides the hoof, yet chews not the cud, it is unclean unto you. You shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch of their dead carcass." Like the pig specifically, it parts the hoof, but it doesn't chew the cud. Chewing the cud is like, it's really a process of really taking your time to digest the food, and it digests it and spits it back up and digests it again. And like cows and stuff, they have multiple stomachs, whereas the pig, it's like from food to out the back door, it's like, I think like an hour or two. Whereas like us, I mean, not that, okay, humans are not a good example because we don't eat humans either, but like the cow, it's got like I think 7 stomachs or something like that, or I don't know, multiple stomachs, and it takes a long time for the food to process out. So all the toxins are extracted, whereas in the pig, for example, the toxins are like, it goes into the flesh because it's not fully filtered and chambered out. These you shall eat of all that are in the waters, all that have fins and scales you shall eat. So fish, like salmon, tuna. Some people say tuna is not clean because the scales are like microscopic, but they have scales. They're clean. And whatsoever has not fins and scales, you may not eat of it. So like swordfish has fins but no scales. Shark has fins but no scales. We don't eat them, right? And whatsoever has not fins and scales, you may not eat. It is unclean to you. So like crabs, lobsters, oysters. And I used to eat that garbage. I know it can be tasty, but I know that bacon can be tasty, but it doesn't matter. Maybe it's a big test for us. Are you, what's, who are you serving? Your belly, or are you serving Elohim? Let's serve Elohim. He's got a lot of other great stuff to taste, to eat. I can tell you something, I don't miss any of it. See ya. My Elohim is more important than tasty, crab meat dipped in butter. See ya. Never eat you again. No problem. We should be able to have that kind of attitude for our Creator. Of all clean birds you shall eat. And what's interesting, you'll see how short this passage is. It almost feels like it was cut short. I believe it was, for whatever purpose, I don't know. Because the bird thing is not really clean. It says you could eat of all clean birds. Okay, well, which ones are clean? Because it just goes on to say, but these are they which you shall not eat: the eagle and the ossifrage and the osprey, and the glede and the kite and the vulture after his kind, and after raven after his kind, and the owl and the nighthawk, and the cacao and the hawk after his kind, the little owl, the great owl, the swan, and the pelican, and the gier eagle, and the cormorant, and the stork, and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat. And of every creeping thing that flies is unclean unto you. This is like insects. They shall not be eaten. But of all clean fowls you may eat. So you're like, okay, well, which ones are clean, right? We don't really get to an understanding. You could just say, well, everything else that's not listed here is clean. Maybe so. But I've seen some really strange doctrines out there because it's not clear cut. Well, guess what? The Targums gives us a little more insight. Because you see here, again, point being is you're like, right here twice, of all clean birds you shall eat. Like, that's the shortest verse I've ever seen in my life. But of all clean fowls you may eat. That's the shortest verse I've ever seen. Why was it cut? Here it is. Of every bird which has a vesicle or a crop which may be picked away, and which bird is longer than a finger, and of not the rapacious kind, you may eat. Well, there you go. That's the clean birds. There's doctrines out there that say that chicken is unclean or turkeys are unclean because of what they eat. Well, guess what? They have a crop. They have a great filtering system that filters out the garbage that they eat. Doesn't matter. Whereas, so people would liken a chicken, for example, to a pig because you feed a pig anything, it'll eat it. Well, guess what? You feed a chicken anything, it'll eat it. It will. The difference is the pig doesn't have the proper toxin filtration system, whereas a chicken does with the crop. So yes, chicken's clean. Yes, turkey's clean. I saw some crazy stuff around Thanksgiving, and people were calling the turkey the abomination of desolation because it's an unclean bird and everybody's eating it, and it's just like, it just leads to some crazy doctrines out there. And this is where the Targums are a blessing. Listen, are the Targums right about everything? Is it a perfect translation? No, but I think it can fill some holes when you're like, okay, well, why is this obviously shortened for some reason? I don't know. So chicken, turkey, clean. Some people say duck. No, I say duck. Yes, they say it because the webbed feet. It doesn't matter. Because they would actually go up here to the animals, the four-footed beasts, and they would say, well, because it doesn't part the hoof. And they'll say, oh, well, a duck has webbed feet, so it doesn't part its hoof. That's not it at all. The hoof part is just for four-footed beasts of the field. Likewise, that would be likened to saying, well, we can't eat of chicken because it doesn't have fins and scales. Obviously, the fins and scales are just for water animals. So anyways, there's a lot of different doctrines out there. If you ask my opinion, I believe ducks are clean too. But check it out for yourself and do your own research. You shall not eat of anything that dies of itself. You shall give it unto the stranger that is in your gates, that he may eat it, or you may sell it unto an alien. For you are a holy people unto Yahweh Lahaika. You shall not seed a kid in his mother's milk. Here's another one that has really kind of gone all over the place. And some people would take this to say you can't eat like a cheeseburger because it has meat and then dairy on top of it. Judaism does stuff like that. I don't believe that. I think it is literally what it says. You shall not seed a kid in his mother's milk. Literally, you shouldn't like boil a baby goat in his mother's milk. I think that's pretty gross. Like pretty, if you think about it. But I know a lot of people hold different interpretations, and so be it. If you don't want to eat a cheeseburger, then don't eat it. Tithes, 14:22. You shall truly tithe all the increase of your seed that the field brings forth year by year. Tithing is an interesting topic because most people are like anti-tithing because they came out of church and they're like, oh, the hypocrisy of the pastor always asking for tithes and then, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's the concept of actually tithing to a church per se, a building, or not really a building, but tithing to the person that ministers to you is actually not, it's actually pretty biblical. The hypocrisy of the modern day church is that all the law is done away with, except for tithing, because you really only find tithing in the Old Testament. But essentially, the whole Old Testament's done away with, in their opinion, except for tithing, which is totally hypocritical. So I totally understand why people are like anti-tithing, but I'm here to tell you it's a Torah principle that I believe is still present today. Now, where those tithes go is a whole different story. You could tithe it to homeless, or people that are poor, I think. And tithing is just like is taking your income and in dispersing it to the poor, or dispersing it wherever it goes. In the old days, it went to the temple because it went to those tithes ended up being what the priests, the Levites, the priests, and the high priests. That's how they survived. That's how they ate. They spent their time, engulfed in the word and teaching the word and performing the sacrifices and ministering to the people and such. And so they didn't have normal occupations. That was their occupation. And so Yah paid them through the tithes of the people. Now, could you give to someone that ministers to you today? Sure, you can. Could you give it to a family in need? Sure, you can. Can you give it to a multitude of different causes out there? Sure, you can. I think you'll find it's a blessing when you actually do so. And you shall eat before Yahweh Lahaika in the place he shall choose to place his name there, the tithe of your grain, of your wine, and of your oil, and of the firstlings of your herds and of your flocks, that you may learn to fear Yahweh Lahaika always. And if the way be too long for you, that you are not able to carry it, or if the place be too far from you, which Yahweh Lahaika shall choose to set his name there, when Yahweh Lahaika has blessed you, then you shall turn it into money, and bind up the money in your hand, and shall go into the place which Yahweh Lahaika shall choose. And ye shall bestow that money for whatsoever your soul lusts after, for oxen, for sheep, for wine, for strong drink, or for whatsoever your soul desires. And this is another thing, I think a lot of people learn from, your Baptist church or whatever denomination that alcohol is evil. No, it's not. People that abuse alcohol can be evil, but alcohol itself is not evil. Yah created it. It was part of his offerings, bringing wine to him. The wine was made to make the heart of man glad and merry. It's the drunkards the problem. People that can't handle it. People that can't handle, that can't stop at 1 or 2. They have to have 15 or 10 or even 5 and get out of control. So people that ban people from drinking alcohol, it's anti-Torah. Just like the church does. It's just man-made doctrines. You can't drink, right? Or you're sinning. You go to hell. Like, really? Show me that scripture. Because I'll show you dozens of scriptures. And this is coming from someone that I don't even drink. A lot of you know I've taken the Nazarite vow, so I don't drink. I got no skin in this game. There's nothing on me. This isn't like I'm trying to push it so that I can make myself feel more comfortable about drinking a glass of wine every night. I haven't touched this stuff in a long time. I don't drink. But surely when we get together for Sukkot, we're going to allow people to have alcohol and enjoy themselves. You have to have self-control. The drunkard, there'll be no room for that. The person that can't handle the alcohol, there's no room for that. But to sit down and have a glass of wine with your friends and family, or two glasses, whatever is your self-control limit. Because let me tell you something, there's a difference between the tolerance of a 110-pound young female or female and versus a 300-pound man. Different tolerances. But I'm not here to give alcohol classes, but what I'm here to say is telling people they can't drink is anti-Torah. And, maybe there's some times where, like, if you have a family over for dinner and the husband used to have a huge drinking problem and you're just sitting there popping out the wine and you're like, bloop, 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 bloop. Oh, hey, buddy, you want some? Maybe that's not the best time for drinking because it may make your brother stumble. Maybe you should have some wisdom like that. But in general, to condemn alcohol is anti-Torah. And you shall eat there before Yahweh Lahaika, and you shall rejoice, you and your household, and the Levite that is within your gates, and you shall not forsake him, for he has no part or nor inheritance with you. At the end of 3 years you shall bring forth all the tithe of your increase the same year, and shall lay it up within your gates. And the Levite, because he has no part nor inheritance with you, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow, which are within your gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that Yahweh Lahaika may bless you in all the work of your hand which you do. Praise Yah. If you want to read a good dissection of the difference between having wine and self-control versus drunkenness, look up the Testament of Judah, chapter 3. It's a great read. It'll give you, it basically says what I says. It says what I said. I mean, I gleaned this from Judah and from other sources, but it basically says if you can't control yourself, then don't drink. If you can control yourself, enjoy yourself, but do it in moderation, because drunkenness will bring on an evil spirit upon you, and it will lead you astray. But here, take care of the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, right? The orphan. This is what we're called to do. This is part of keeping Torah. 2 Esdras 2:20-23. And maybe this is where your tithes can go. Guard the rights of the widow. Maybe find a widow and help a widow. Secure the justice for the fatherless. Maybe there's a fatherless child and you can assist that family. I don't know. Give to the needy. Defend the orphan. Clothe the naked. Care for the injured and the weak. Do not ridicule a lame man. Protect the maimed. And let the blind man have a vision of my splendor. Protect the old and the young within your walls. When you find any who are dead, commit them to the grave and mark it, and I will give you the first place in my resurrection. It's about taking care of the weak. Those of you that were with us on the study earlier tonight, the How to Keep Torah study, as we continue on this walk, I just picture it like a marathon race. But it's not a race to get there first, in my opinion. In my opinion, we're on the same walk. We're all on the same course. And people fall, they stumble. And we should be about our Father's business and picking those people back up, helping them back up. We can't pick them up ourselves, but we can help them back up on their feet to get them back in the way, right? And part of that is taking care of the widows and the fatherless and the orphans and the poor and the needy. Think about it. All right, chapter 15. At the end of every 7 years you shall make a release. And this is the manner of the release. Every creditor that lends aught unto his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is called Yahweh's release. Of a foreigner you may exact it again, but that which is of yours, of your brethren, you shall release it. So, if we lend to each other in, these Torah communities, whatever, maybe we can just forgive debts. Maybe Yah would be like, because I don't know what year is the 7th year. I quite frankly don't know. But maybe you can loan to your brother, and if you can sustain it, maybe you can just be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to say this year is the 7th year. Your debt is no longer, it's washed. I mean, what that would do to somebody. But they're like, but I owe you like hundreds of dollars, or I owe you thousands of dollars. Like, you don't know what that can do to somebody? I know. I mean, spiritually, we all know. We all had a debt that we couldn't pay. And he paid it for us. How much more can we do stuff for our brethren that owe us money or owe us goods or whatever? We just be like, it's taken care of. Don't worry about it. What would our fathers say? Say when there should be no poor among you, for Yahweh shall greatly bless you in the land which Yahweh Elohika gives you for an inheritance to possess it. Only if you carefully hearken unto the voice of Yahweh Elohika, to guard to do all these commandments which I command you this day. For Yahweh Elohika blesses you, as he promised you, and you shall lend unto many nations, but you shall not borrow, and you shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. If there be among you a poor man of one of your brethren within any of your gates in your land which Yahweh Elohika gives you, you shall not harden your heart, nor shut your hand from your poor brother, but you shall open your hand wide unto him, and shall surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wants. Beware that there be not a thought in your wicked heart, saying, the 7th year, their year of release is at hand, and ye be evil against your poor brother, and you give him not, and he cry unto El Yahweh against you, and it be sinned into you. Right, so someone would be saying, like, so let's say the year of the seventh year of release was coming. Let's say it's 6 months away, and your poor brother comes up to you, hey man, can you lend me like $1,000? I'll get you back. I know the 7-year release is coming up, but I'll get you back before then. But you're thinking to yourself, he's not going to pay me back in 6 months. He's going to drag this out, and the year of release is going to come upon me, and I'm going to have to forgive him all of that debt. That's the thought process he doesn't want you having. That's wrong. Again, not that we know what the 7th year is this year. Maybe if we have a lot more time here on this earth than we think, maybe we'll all sit down together and just acknowledge which one is the 7th year. I don't know. But the point is, the overall thought process is to not have that kind of attitude. It's the 7th year of release is a month away. And your brother's like, hey, I need $5,000. Can you help me? And if you don't have it, you don't have it. You can be like, hey, bro, I just don't have that kind of money. I mean, I got like $500. I can just lend to you, or just have it. Or if you have it, you'd be like, hey, or whatever. I said $5,000. That's a lot of money. But let's say if your brother's like, hey man, I really need $500, and you're like, I'll probably never see that. So what? Yeah, sure, no problem, man. Take it here. If you have it, of course. If you don't have it, you don't have it. I'm just saying. I'm speaking generalities. Just apply that to whatever is going on in your life. But the point is to have an open hand. You shall surely give him, and your heart shall not be grieved when you give unto him. Give God gladly. Don't. And if you give, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to see this money again. You just wasted it. You just wasted your blessing. It's gone. Because that thing is Yahweh. I'm sorry. When you give unto him, because that. For this thing, Yahweh Elohika shall bless you in all your works, and all that you put your hand into. For the poor shall never cease out of the land. Just like Messiah said, when Judas is like, we should have sold this oil for all this money and give to the poor. And Messiah's like, listen, you're going to have the poor all the time, right? But I'm only going to die once. And she did a good thing to me. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall open your hand wide unto your brother, to your poor, and to your needy in your land. And if your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, Ivri woman, should be sold unto you and serve you 6 years, then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. We don't have this kind of servitude anymore. This country, although, was actually built on this. Serving 6 years and being released on the 7th. That's they call it indentured servitude. Look it up. Look it up with the formation of this country and people coming over from Europe. People that were super poor, they sold themselves as an indentured servitude for different years. I think some of it was 7 years, some of it was 10, so on and so forth. But after they served it, they got their own farm. They got their own plot of land that they could have of their own. And they came here with nothing and got something from nothing. Then in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you, and when you send him free from you, you shall not let him go away empty. But let's pause here and let's talk about the poor. Let's look at some scriptures about the poor. Once again, the book of Sirach is just amazing, has amazing wisdom for us. Book of Sirach, chapter 4, 1 through 10. My son, deprive not the poor of his living, and do not keep needy eyes waiting. Do not grieve the one who is hungry, nor anger a man in want. Do not add to the troubles of an angry mind, nor delay to give your gift to a beggar. Do not reject an afflicted suppliant, nor turn your face away from the poor. Do not avert your eye from the needy, nor give a man occasion to curse you. For if in bitterness of soul he calls down a curse upon you, his Creator will hear his prayer. Make yourself beloved in the congregation, bow your head low to a great man, incline your ear to the poor, and answer him peaceably and gently, right? So not only do we give, but we should have peaceable answers to the poor. Deliver him who is wrong from the hand of the wrongdoer, and do not be faint-hearted in judging a case. Be like a father to orphans, and instead of a husband to their mother. You will then be like the Son of a Most High, and he will love you more than does your mother. This is how we need to be, brothers and sisters. Sirach 7:31-36. Fear Yahweh and honor the priest, and give him his portion. This is actually what we were just talking about a second ago with the tithes. As he has commanded you, the first fruits, the guilt offering, the gift of the shoulders, the sacrifice of sanctification, the first fruits of the holy things. Stretch forth your hand to the poor, so that your blessing may be complete. Give graciously to all the living, and withhold not kindness from the dead. Do not fail those who weep, but mourn with those who mourn. Do not shrink from visiting a sick man, because for such deeds you will be loved. In all you do, remember the end of your life, and then you will never sin. Sirach 29, he that shows mercy will lend to his neighbor, and he that strengthens him will keep his and he that strengthens him with his hands keeps the commandments. Lend to your neighbor in the time of his need, and in turn repay your neighbor promptly. Confirm your word and keep faith with him, and on every occasion you will find what you need. Many persons regard a loan as a windfall and cause trouble to those who help them. A man will kiss another's hand until he gets a loan, and will lower his voice in speaking of his neighbor's money. But at the time for repayment he will delay, and will pay in words of unconcern, and will find fault with the time. If the lender exert pressure, he will hardly get back half, and will regard that as a windfall. If he does not, the borrower has robbed him of his money, and he has needlessly made him his enemy. He will repay him with curses and reproaches, but instead of glory will repay him with dishonor. Because of such wickedness, therefore, many have refused to lend. They have been afraid of being defrauded needlessly. Nevertheless, be patient with a man in humble circumstances, and do not make him wait for your alms. Help a poor man for the commandment's sake, and because of his need, do not send him away empty. Lose your silver for the sake of a brother or a friend, and do not let it rust under a stone and be lost. Lay up your treasure according to the commandments of the Most High, and it will profit you more than gold. Store up almsgiving in your treasury, and it will rescue you from all affliction, more than a mighty shield and more than a heavy spear, and it will fight on your behalf against your enemy. Okay, so maybe we get it now about giving, right? And when you send him out, okay, so, Deuteronomy 15:14, you shall furnish him liberally out of your flock, and out of your floor, and out of your winepress, of that wherewith Yahweh has blessed you, you shall give it unto him. And you shall remember that you were a bondman in the land of Mitzrayim, and Yahweh redeemed you. Therefore I command you this thing today. And it shall be, if he say unto you, I will not go away from you, because he loves you and your house, because he is well with you, then you shall take an awl and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be your servant forever. That's like the beginning of earrings, right? Just basically boring your ear. And also unto your maidservant you should do likewise. It shall not seem hard unto you when you send him away free from you, for he has been worth a double hired servant to you, and serving you 6 years. And Yahweh shall bless you in all that you do. And the firstling males that come of your herd of your flock you shall sanctify unto Yahweh. You shall do no work with the firstling of your bullock, nor shear the firstling of your sheep. You shall eat it before Yahweh year by year in the place which Yahweh shall choose, you and your household. Now this is something that I actually have seen some people keep that have. I don't have a farm, nor do I have really any livestock. But it's something I'm considering, maybe one day I do. But basically, the firstling male, so like one of your animals has a firstborn male. So like let's say you have goats, and your goat gives birth, and the firstborn is a male. You're not supposed to do any work with it, or even if it's like a sheep, you're not supposed to shear it, but you're supposed to eat it. I mean, back in the day, if it had no blemish, they'd take it to the temple, and they'd offer the firstborn of their flocks, and present it unto Yah. Obviously, we don't have that these days, so I know some people that, firstborn comes out, and they eat it. And I've heard people report that, they've been blessed many fold for doing so. Just something to consider. You shall eat it before. Verse 21. And if there be any blemish therein, and if as if it is lame or blind or have any ill blemish, you shall not sacrifice unto Yahweh. You shall eat it within your gates. So it's going to be eaten one way or the other. So back then it was eaten one way or the other. It was either taken to the temple, sacrificed and eaten, or if it had blemish, they couldn't take it. It was eaten within their own gates. The unclean and the clean person shall eat it alike, as the roebuck and as the deer. Only you shall not eat the blood thereof. You shall pour it upon the ground as water. All right, last chapter 16, verse 1. Guard the month of Abib, and keep the Pesach, the Passover, unto Yahweh Lahaika. For in the month of Abib, Yahweh Lahaika brought you forth out of Mitzrayim by night. And here is the other passage in the Targums that was interesting, because a lot of you probably know the calendar I follow. It's a luni solar calendar. That means we use the sun and the moon to calculate things. I know there's other calendars out there, and I'm not putting you down if you do the solar calendar only or whatever. Listen, if you want to keep Yah's ways, you're my brother or sister. I don't care. I'm just, again, sharing with you as if you were in my living room, just discussing where I'm at on things. But a lot of people will be like, hey, there's no commandment to add a 13th month, which is called intercalation. It's interesting that the same people that say that are on the solar calendars have to do intercalary weeks and those kind of things. So really, any calendar, there has to be some intercalation. But specifically, on the lunisolar calendar, they say that there's no scriptural justification for intercalating a 13th month every 2 or 3 years. Well, it's interesting that it is in the Targums. So we saw this passage. Well, here's Deuteronomy 16:1 in the Targums. Be mindful to keep the times of the festivals with the intercalations of the year, and to observe the rotation thereof. What's the rotation? Well, every 2 or 3 years, you add a 13th month. Just to show you the definition of intercalation, timekeeping. Intercalation or embolism in timekeeping is the insertion of a leap day, week, or month into some calendars to make the calendar follow the seasons or moon phases. Luni-solar calendars may require intercalations of both days and months. So, there it is. Be mindful to keep the times of the festivals with the intercalations of the year, and to observe the rotation thereof. Intercalation for a lunisolar calendar is the insertion of a 13th month every second or third year on the Hebrew calendar. So, thought it was kind of interesting. Just wanted to share it with you. Okay, so finishing up. We're going to probably just finish up here. So, Deuteronomy 6:2, you shall therefore sacrifice the Pesach unto Yahweh Lahaika of the flock and the herd in the place which Yahweh shall choose to place his name there. You shall eat no chametz, leavened bread with it. 7 days shall you eat matzah, unleavened bread therewith, even the bread of affliction. For you came forth out of the land of Mitzrayim in haste, that you may remember the day when you came forth out of the land of Mitzrayim all the days of your life. Just in case you're new, we do have a playlist of all the feast days, so if you're interested in learning how to celebrate these feast days, just look at the homepage of Parable of the Vineyard on YouTube. There's a playlist there for how to keep the feast days, like how, when, where, why, all that stuff. And there shall be no chametz, that's leaven, or risen dough, seen within all your coast 7 days. Neither shall there anything of the flesh which you sacrifice the first day evening remain all night until the morning. You may not sacrifice the Pesach within any of your gates, which Yahweh Lahaika gives you, but at the place which Yahweh Lahaika shall choose to place his name in, there you shall sacrifice the Pesach at evening, at the going down of the sun, at the season you came forth out of Mitzrayim, and you shall roast and eat it in the place which Yahweh Lahaika shall choose, and you shall turn in the morning and go into your tents. 6 days you shall eat matzah, and on the 7th day there shall be a solemn assembly to Yahweh Lahaika. You shall not do work therein. 7 weeks shall you number unto you. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as you begin to put the sickle to the grain, and you shall keep the feast of Shavuot, the Pentecost, unto Yahweh Lahaika, with a tribute of a freewill offering in your hand, which you shall give unto Yahweh Lahaika according as Yahweh Lahaika has blessed you. And remember, speaking of tithes and stuff, unless they were super far away, they brought, all the increase of their field, the grain, the wine, and they brought a tenth of it. Most of us aren't farmers anymore, so, a tenth of our earnings. But these are obviously discussing the 3 main feasts surrounding the 3 main harvests. Unleavened bread was surrounded around Passover, and unleavened bread was surrounded around the barley harvest. Shavuot, Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, was centered around the wheat harvest, And then the third one, Feast of Booths, or Sukkot, or Tabernacles, is around the grape harvest, right? The new wine. And you shall rejoice. There it is again. You shall rejoice before Yahweh Lahaika, you and your son and your daughter and your manservant and your maidservant, right, your employees, right? The Levites that's in your gates, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are among you, in the place which Yahweh Lahaika has chosen to place his name there. And ye shall remember that you were a bondman in Mitzrayim, and you shall guard and do these statutes. You shall keep the feast of Sukkot, Tabernacles, 7 days. After that you have gathered in your threshing floor and your wine, and you shall rejoice. There it is again. You shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter and your manservant and your maidservant and the Levite and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are within your gates. 7 days shall you keep a solemn feast unto Yahweh Lahaika in the place which Yahweh shall choose, because of Yahweh Lahaika shall bless you in all your increase and all the works of your hands. Therefore you shall surely rejoice. And those of you that want to do Sukkot and have nowhere to go, we are having a Sukkot open for those that believe in Messiah Yahusha, believe in being reconciled to the Father through Messiah Yahusha, and believe that we're to keep the commandments. Even if you've only been doing it for 2 weeks and you're like, I'm just a baby and I'm learning, well, you're welcome too. But if you're like anti-Messiah and if you're anti-Torah, I apologize. You'll just maybe have to. If you're anti-Torah, you're not interested in Sukkot anyways. But for anyone that is a believer in Messiah Yahusha, the Word of Elohim made flesh, who offered his life up for us, and you believe that we're to keep the Torah, you're invited. And I'll try to remember to leave a link in the description box if you're interested. It's going to be October 21st through the 31st, and it's going to be in Lebanon, Missouri. It's a private campground. We got plenty of room. We're all out of RV spots, but you can boondock your RV. That means you can just, park it, and there's plenty of electricity, so you'll be at least be able to do electricity. Yeah, you're invited. So if you want more information, you can email me about it. hello@parableofthevineyard.com. But you're invited. Also, another quick announcement before I finish up, just so I don't forget. The Fellowship Finder, signing up for the website, it's been revamped, so check it out if you had trouble in the past. 3 times in a year shall all your males appear before Yahweh Lahaika in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of Matzah, unleavened bread, and in the feast of Shavuot, and in the feast of Sukkot. They shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahweh Elohika, which he has given you. So, with that, brothers and sisters, we are finished with the Torah portion today. I pray it was a blessing for you, and may Yahweh continue to give us wisdom and understanding and growth in our walk. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Yahweh, we come before you, and we bless you and praise you and thank you for all you do. Thank you for allowing us to study your Torah in these last days. Thank you for allowing us to do it on this platform. Father, we know that many things are changing, Father, and we just ask that you would preserve this platform to allow us to fellowship together, to allow us to study together your word and to grow together, Father, until the very last day. We ask these things, Father, in Yahusha's name, and we thank you for your Shabbat, and we just ask for your peace and your blessings and for your face to shine upon us, Father, on this most set-apart day of your Shabbat. And we love you and thank you for all you do. Amen and hallelujah. Brothers and sisters, may Yah bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Shabbat shalom, brothers and sisters. Let's sing a little song about the 2 greatest commandments, loving Yahweh and loving people. Let's start with how we love him. You shall not have any other Elohim before him. You shall not have any graven images, for you are his. You shall not bow down to them, nor shall you ever serve them. Keeping his commandment shows you love him. Yahusha did not abolish but strengthen them. Blessed are those who keep his way. They may have the right to enter through the gate. And you shall not
take his name in vain and remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Work 6 days and then we rest and be refreshed. Honor your mom and dad and then you'll be surely glad. Keeping his commandment shows you love him. Yahusha did not abolish but strengthen them. Blessed are those who keep his way. They may have the right to enter through the gate.
Now we're going to sing about loving other people. Here's how.
And you shall not murder anyone, even in your heart. Love everyone, and you shall not commit adultery, even in your mind. Put that all behind, and you shall not steal anything. Be satisfied with what Yah provides, and you shall not tell any lies, for he sees all who's above the skies. You shall not covet anything, but keep his ways. You won't lack a thing. Keeping his commandment shows you love him. Yahusha did not abolish but strengthen them. Blessed are those who keep his way. They may have